Ramadan.
It's exactly 40 minutes to 6 p.m. Central African time, and without further ado, we cross live to Moulana Ahmad Namutamba, and he's going to be giving us our naseeha this evening. Moulana Ahmad is in the Johannesburg region, so he'll be ending it off with a dua. Moulana Ahmad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, long time no here. I was just telling my colleagues here at the radio station that I know Moulana Ahmad for a very long time. I've known you since my student days. MashaAllah, I'm so really happy to hear your voice again.
Subhanallah, it is a pleasure for me as well. It is a surprise for me that you are the one who's down there, and it has been a while.
Now, Moulana, inshallah, we will catch up some other time, but inshallah, bismillah, tafaddal, kalimatan tanfa'una wa la tadurruk.
Ameen. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. In today's discussion, we just highlighting some of the important events that happened in the history of Islam. Today we're touching on the Battle of Badr. From the Battle of Badr, understanding that it is also called the Battle of the Full Moon, because Badr, it means a full moon. In history, it was the most important turning point in the history of Islam, in the sense that Muslims had found themselves in a defensive position most of the time, as far as from the beginning of the nubuwwat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it is through this battle that it turned Islam to be a more stable religion and eventually expanded globally. So it is an important battle for us to understand the significance of it as well. And it is one of the battles that Allah mentions by name in the Quran as well. It happened 2 years after the hijrah of after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ from Makkah to Medina. And it happened on the 13th of March, which was the 17th month of Ramadan, and Muslims were fasting. If we are to look at the damage this battle did to the Meccans, one, their trade was affected, and it also boosted the morale of the Muslims through the sacrifices of our Tabi'in. Remember, the Muslims were fasting, they were few in number, and they were able to defend the deen of Allah. They were able to defend themselves against the Muslims and who had come from Makkah to defeat the Muslims in a battle which they thought that it was going to be decisive and in favor and in their favor as well. So we're going to look at the sacrifices that actually were put forth for us to remember today as we are fasting, that our Kabirin from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they did not only face sacrifices in good times or outside the month of Ramadan. It is through the month of Ramadan that Allah Ta'ala answered their sacrifices. And today we are actually sitting here with the beautiful deen of Islam. And if we are to ponder at what they went through, just looking at this battle of Badr itself, that there were 313 men against 1,000 men. And they were ill-equipped in the sense that the people from Makkah had about 100 horses and 70 camels. And if you look at the Muslims themselves, they had 2 horses and 70 camels and 318 men. And they were facing, they were against it on this day. But when you have Allah, or you are keen on Allah, Allah can make the impossible possible. This is one lesson that we need to learn from the battle of Badr. It is through this battle that it transformed the Muslims from a regional religion to a global religion. And it solidified their strength in Medina, and at the same time as well, it disgraced those people who had looked down upon the Muslims and the people who wanted to actually exterminate the Muslims from the earth, from the face of the earth. And if we are to go, how did this battle unfold itself? Firstly, we find that Aswad, who was a warrior from, I don't know whether to call him a warrior from the Quraysh, he goes forward and says that he's going to bring from the world that was within the property of the Muslims, and the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ confronted him and he defeats this man. This man is killed. Then three men are sent forth to fight the Muslim, to fight three against from the Muslim side. We find that when the three Quraysh men were sent forth, three Ansar people were sent forth by the Prophet ﷺ, and the Quraysh declined and said that we don't want to fight you three. We have got issues with the confidence of the Prophet ﷺ. Those who were close to the Prophet ﷺ are the people whom we want to fight. And hence, the Prophet ﷺ, he sent his uncle Hamza and Ubaidah and eventually defeated those Quraysh. And eventually the battle is fought and the Muslims become victorious. And this then ushers a new era in the history of Islam, in the sense that the Muslims, it sets forth as well what we can consider as a path for the Muslims to eventually take over the Ham, to take over Makkah as well. So we can understand that through the battle of Badr that Muslims moved from a position of defensive to stability and expansion. And this was so decisive in the sense that Muslims now had an upper hand against the enemies of Islam, and it is only through the qudrat of Allah and the assistance of Allah and the yaqeen the Muslims had in the help of Allah. So as Muslims, we should be despondent. When we are faced with difficulties, we should understand and derive lessons from the sacrifices that our predecessors have shown us through the Battle of Badr. May Allah Ta'ala give us the strength and that type of yaqeen and sacrifices that our Muslim brothers and sisters who proceeded before us had shown to us how to sacrifice for the deen of Islam. So may Allah Ta'ala give us the ability to do so. الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم يسر ولا تؤثر وتمم بالخير الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا ولولا لنهتدي لنكونن من الخاسرين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah Moulana, shukran, and may Allah reward you. I definitely am going to try and catch up with you and get your numbers from the team and do that catching up, which is I think long overdue. Jazakallah khair, may Allah reward you, Moulana.
I mean, Jazakallah for the opportunity and the catch up, inshallah.
Ameen. Moulana bringing our time to iftar in Johannesburg. We end the program with the iftar dua. اللهم لك صمت وبك آمنت وعلى رزقك أفطرت فتقبل مني.